Today with Talk with Boston Lanka, we are happy to have Chandri Lihiri with us. Chandri joined from Boston. Welcome, Chandri. Um, and
Thank
uh,
you.
and Chandri is I think a unique person, has unique skills, and she's also representing Off Kendrick organization, Voices of Off Kendrick, I would say, and maybe she can talk a little bit more about that. And I think I could say that she's a storyteller, and we could see your skills as well, hopefully. And so, Chandri, I know that you have this organization, especially sharing these immigrant stories of South Asians. Um, Tell us a little bit about this effort, this program, and also this organization to our audience.
Sure. Thank you so much, first of all, Chitral, for having me on the show. So yes, you are correct. One of my identities is as a storyteller, even though I like to say that everybody's a storyteller. The organization that I represent is called offkendrick.com. We are a theater company based in the greater Boston area. And I'm Bengali from the eastern part of India, from Kolkata. We do theater in Bengali. But in 2016, our artistic director was very inspired by a very popular storytelling show called The Moth, which I think almost everybody in the Boston area would have heard on radio. And he said, well, why don't we do that? And why don't we do it specifically for South Asians? And that was how Voices was born. It's a storytelling show in storytelling now has become really, really huge in America and all over the world. But traditionally, what that means is that you tell true stories from your real life that have happened to you. Tellers say it in the first person without too much dialogue, just like this, as if we're chit chatting. And with Voices, our focus is on getting South Asian immigrant stories out. At the basis, we all live the same lives. We all laugh, we all cry, we all have the same emotions. But to be an immigrant in this country and to come from one of the South Asian countries means that we have certain aspects of our journey here that are very unique to us. It's a lot in common with someone from maybe China, but a little bit different on the subcontinent. So that's what we focus on. We try to get stories of hilarious stories, touching stories, everything that would help mainstream America know a little bit more about what it means to be a South Asian immigrant and to get past stereotypes. We're not all the Apu character. We're not all doctors. We're not all engineers, or, we don't fall into any of those stereotypes.
So, Chandri, I mean, I know you are originally from India, and I'm originally from Sri Lanka, and we all are immigrants, and
Mhm.
we all have our own uh, journey that coming from our home countries and then starting our life all I mean new in this
Yeah.
country, and obviously some maybe we may have nice good experience as well as bad or difficult experience. So
Mhm.
I'm curious now why you think it's important uh, to at least share the stories as well as let people hear these stories. Why, especially at this time of, why it's so important?
Thank you so much for asking that. In the last year and a half or 2 years, we've seen an explosion of minority hatred in this country. That's objectively the truth. It's not even opinion anymore. And as we think more and more about a post-racial America, which might never happen, one thing is becoming very true and very clear, that people fear that they don't know, and people judge that they don't know. So any time and every time somebody with our skin color or a certain accent or a certain ethnicity experiences bias, it's usually because people are thinking, oh, this person is just going to behave a certain way and do a certain and do take my job, or be mean to me, or be all the nasty stereotypes that there are. There's also model minority myths. Everybody thinks that, oh, you must be an engineer from India or Sri Lanka. It's important now to get beyond that and show people that in many ways we are like them. We all have pain, we all have loss, we all have joy, we all have sorrow. It's also important for them to understand, and by them I mean everybody. America's a melting pot, but for everybody to understand that we have our unique culture. Bengalis, I'm Bengali. We have our unique little traditions and customs, which don't always translate very well. An example is, I've been taught, my upbringing teaches me to be very humble. That doesn't always translate to success in an American workplace. So for people to understand that when someone compliments me on my work, and if I say, oh, it was nothing, it doesn't actually mean it was nothing. I probably worked very, very hard, but it's in my culture to not brag and not boast. So I think why it's important at this time is for people to understand the culture behind us, so that we don't get misunderstood, and so that our commonalities and our differences both come out, and we become a more solid part of this country and not just stereotypes. Does that kind of answer the question?
Yes, yes, of course. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know because we, like you said, because we don't share sometimes our stories or listen to others, sometimes all kinds of stereotypes happening. And I think it's easy to kind of target somebody if you don't know the person well, I
Mhm.
think, right? Uh,
Right. And sometimes if something that they say resonates with you, if you identify with that person, it can make a very big difference, not just to how you treat that person, but to a whole section. And I'll be honest with you, in India, the reverse is also true. There is a lot of inbuilt racism in Indian culture. A lot of people, when they first come to America, have a very warped idea of what African American culture is like. And it's not until they get to know and to look past the headlines that their bias breaks. So it goes both ways. Yeah.
True, true. Now, Chandri, I mean, I'm sure people probably listening, they probably want to share the stories, but
Yeah.
probably thinking, well, I do I have these skills, or how do I know this? Now,
Yeah.
for our audience benefit, is it possible for you to just to illustrate a simple story, like the way
Yeah.
you're telling a storyteller, like as a storyteller, just a little bit of performance, I guess.
Yeah. No, I'd love to. Thank you. The thing about storytellers is we're always ready to talk. So let me tell you a very quick short story, and it is kind of an immigrant story. Um, so a couple of weeks ago, what happened was, my son, I have a 14-year-old son, and he's doing online school the way kids have been doing during the pandemic. And I was in the kitchen making a cup of tea or something, and I heard him in the next room. I just heard him say, "Oh, doll is so overrated." That's the only line I heard. And so I quickly backed out of the kitchen. 14 years old, he must not know that I'm eavesdropping, that I've heard. So I'm trying to be very cool and not react. But that day at dinner, I said, "Hey, so did I hear you say something about doll being overrated?" And he's like, yeah, my friends and we were talking about it, because I guess that's when I found out that in his friends group that he talks with, there are a few Indian kids and the rest are all American. And so I was so curious to know what he was saying. And he said, oh, yeah, because all the American kids were saying, oh, Indian food is so awesome. And the few Indian kids, we were saying, yeah, it's nice, but we don't want it every day. Our parents don't want to eat dal every day. Dal's overrated. And so I listened to him. I tried to keep my face very, very, non-reactive, because teenagers really like to know, they like to see how you're reacting. But I went back to work feeling so bad. It's like a lot of immigrant parents, we have this dual identity in our house. I am Indian and my child is American, with an Indian heritage. And I try to walk that really razor thin line. So I make a really big effort to put Indian food on the table as well as American food, right? He must know his culture. He must also know our culture. And he made me feel like I was feeling miserably. So, anyway, it's Friday. And I don't know if this happens to everybody or if it's just me, but Friday night, when it comes time to make dinner, I open the fridge and it's like, what are those called in the desert? Those the cactus bushes that go rolling by. Nothing in the fridge. Everything has been eaten. It's Friday. And so I'm looking, there's like half an onion, there's few shreds of a rotisserie chicken left, there's one sad carrot with a wrinkled skin. And I'm looking at it going, oh my God, I'm so tired. What am I going to feed my family today? Now, when you're tired, you think of comfort food. So the thing that popped into my head using those ingredients was bharta, dhaba style chicken bharta, nice and spicy that you could eat with some white rice or some roti. But then that little conversation I had with my son just kind of slapped me on the face. Oh, no, no, dal was overrated. I was not putting bharta on the table to my poor child, whom I am completely messing up by giving him only Indian food. So then I'm like, think, Chandra, think, what can I do? And so I'm thinking, okay, chicken pot pie. Doesn't get more American than that, right? So I start thinking, what do I need for chicken pot pie? Carrots, onions, celery, and no celery in that fridge for love or money. And I'm so tired by then. You know what it's like on Friday, and I'm thinking, oh God, if I make a pot pie without celery, that's like making dal without having jeera in the tempering. How can you have a dal without the chalk? You can't do that. And see, for Bengalis, the chalk that we use, the tempering that we use is five spice. And an essential ingredient in the five spice is this one spice called randhuni. And I'm thinking, yeah, oh my gosh, it's like if I did dal without randhuni. And something clicked in my tired brain, and I started thinking, hold on a second. Randhuni. What is randhuni? All these spices are seeds of something. Is this the seed of a cabbage or a carrot? Lightning hit me and flash bulbs went off and I got to work really excited. I made my pot pie. I served dinner. That night, my son took one bite. And I swear I am not exaggerating. He stood up at the dining table with his head in it, hands in his head, and he went, oh, that was awesome. What did you put in this? He stood up. And I was like, is it good? He's like, I have never had chicken pot pie this good. What did you put in it? And at that point, I just started laughing, Chitral, because I didn't know how to tell him that what I put in that pot pie that was the best he'd had in his life was randhuni, the quintessential Bengali spice, also known as seed of celery. And in my mind, I was laughing and I just thought, overrate that, my friend. So that's my story about how this Indian mom outwitted the Indian American boy. And it was so funny.
Yeah. No, I think you also you kind of set up the story, and then also there's a little bit end like more like a kind of a nice climax, but then also you kind of capture the audience the way you with the expressions and all that. I think that's what it is, right?
Thank you. Yeah. So this is the wonderful part about storytelling, right? I didn't make any of this stuff, but like any day of the week, something has happened to all of us that we can turn into a story. What makes a story engaging is when you are your own authentic self. And everyone's got a way of telling stories. I use my hands a lot. I'm very loud. Some people are very quiet, but they can tell stories. So you were saying before, right? You're so right. So many people who are new to storytelling think, I don't have a story. I promise you there's a story in everything. There's a story in the meeting that you just had at work. I mean, not always, but if you think about it, if you think about what that moment meant for you, there is a story there. And if you have a coach or somebody who has done a little bit of storytelling, they can usually help you figure out where that story is and help you bring it out.
So, say if Sri Lankans want to join, be part of this South Asian storytelling, these voices, obviously they can contact you, right? And then also, I know that if they are not sure or having any doubts, you could even kind of prep them a little bit also,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. In
Um,
fact, so let me share a couple of opportunities. So we are, I am very excited to have gotten in touch with you because one of the things that had happened in our Voices show, Voices only happens every other year, and it's a big production. We rent a big hall, we have tickets, it's a very high production values. We have not had a single Sri Lankan person on the show. And South Asia does not mean India. It means India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal. So we are very excited to have people pitch, meaning give us stories to consider because we audition people to put them on the show for the big show. But what we also have is something called a story slam, which is a very popular form of storytelling right now in America. Uh, we Voices is having it every quarter. Our next one is in June. And if you go to our website, which you will be sharing later on, there is a sign up form. What a story slam is it's kind of a fun contest where you come ready with a 6-minute story. You put your name in a hat, and then live during the slam, I pull out 6 to 8 names. And then if I pull it out, you tell your story. It's 6 minutes, and then the whole audience at the end judges, and one person wins. It's just a really fun way of getting stories out. The last one we had, which was the first one we had about 75 people who were virtually attending. So we have the story slams. Our next one is in June. But in addition, on the first Friday of every month, I host something called a story swap. And the first one is actually next Friday. What that is you sign up from our website. Whoever signs up, I will send them a Zoom link. And it's not open to the public. It's only open to people who have signed up. And what you do is exactly what you said. If you have an idea for a story, it doesn't have to be a full story. It's just an idea. At that story swap, everyone will get 5 or 6 minutes of time, and you can just tell the whole group. You can say, okay, here's a story that I'm thinking of, and try and tell it. And then I'm the coach, I'll give you feedback, and the whole group can say, wow, that's a really nice story, but can you tell me a little more about that part? Maybe you want to leave this part out. That's really good. So it's a place to kind of build your confidence. You also get a chance to hear other people tell stories. So your confidence starts building. And of course, over and above the story swap is myself. You can contact me, and I usually I can do one-on-one coaching, or I try to get 2 or 3 people together, a small group, and then we'll all listen and all support each other. The idea of the story swap as well as the group coaching is to create a safe place that you should not feel self-conscious, you should not feel ashamed, you should not feel, oh, I can't do this. Everybody's a storyteller. There is no class that well, you can take classes, but most storytellers have not taken classes. It's just like you or me. So yeah, I would love to hear from many Sri Lankan people in this area. If you can think of a funny thing, a sad thing, something that happened to you, the only thing is for storytelling to be successful, it has to be one specific anecdote. Like the story that I just told today was about that one comment that I heard and this funny sequence of events that happened, right? It can be about how you were placing your coffee order, and instead of, you know how they always misspell your name, it could be that. And then what happened? So a story can be anything and it can be nothing, but please contact me. Please go to the website, which Chitra will share, offkendrick.com/voices. And there are multiple places for you to sign up. You can sign up for the story swap. The first one is it's first Friday of every month. You can sign up for the story slam, which is every 3 months. And you can actually come to the story swap and test out the story that you want to tell at the story slam, right? Get it in order. So thank you so much again for helping me reach people. I can't wait to hear some good stories from Sri Lanka.
Good. Thank you so much, and I think thank you for doing this. I think bringing these stories alive and also giving the us opportunity to share our stories with each other. I think it's important. I think, like you said, country we have seen these hate crimes and all that. Also because because people don't know each other. I think, and so hopefully this effort probably will help in a little way to understand each other, get to know better, I think, right? So thank
Yeah.
you so much for doing this, and thank you so much for kind of reaching out to Sri Lankan community as well.
Thank you so much, Chitra. And for those of you who are not confident enough to take part in the slam, I highly encourage you to watch it. The first slam that we have is recorded. It's on our website. Watching that also gives you an idea of what it's about. You can hear the stories and see how it went. Thank you again, Chitra. I'm excited.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll be in touch. Okay.
Thank you.